Okay guys, this isn't a proper part 3 to the series here, and I'm gonna have to be a little quiet because my 2.5-year-old is asleep at the other side of the house here, and I don't want to wake him up. We're all going to the beach to visit our family in North Carolina tomorrow morning. So I had to get, some semi-finishing touches done on the machine so I can fit it in my car without damaging it. And so it looks halfway decent. So this is just a very quick video showing some of the trim work that I've done here. You can see along the edges here, this metallic trim. And I also got the top panel done right here, which I was just procrastinating, a simple thing. So the top panel finally has been installed. You can see, of course, I used corner braces, not 2x4s. To reiterate my previous point regarding securing the arcade cabinet panels, the 2x4s don't do it. You should not have a single 2x4 in your arcade cabinet ever. Only use corner braces, which are these little L-shaped metal guys right here. They weigh less and you don't have to screw them in from the outside. So anyway, back to the trim. As I mentioned before, let me get a good view on this. As I mentioned before, you can get this at your hardware store, Home Depot, Lowe's, what have you, for about $9 for 8 feet. It's a 90-degree angle. One side of it, this side is flat. This side has a slight curve to it, and apparently these are used to reinforce the edges of stairs. So I guess people don't rip off the edge of stairs as they're trafficking them repeatedly. You saw from my previous video the edges of the vinyl here where they came together looked like crap. Of course, because how can you perfectly connect two pieces of vinyl like that? Even if you did, they'd still be subject to wear and tear. Somebody could brush up against it walking by it and peel one back. So if you're going to use something soft like vinyl to skin your unit, you really need to have some sort of reinforcement like this on the corners. Think of it, for example, this wall here. They do the same thing with drywall. Any corner of drywall, they actually have, whether it's plastic or metal, something very much like these. Underneath that, they cover it in plaster and then they paint it, so people banging furniture into the corner or what have you won't chip into the soft drywall. So same concept here for not having your vinyl peeled back. Now also, as I mentioned previously, I said it was going to get a little bit tricky in this area, and you can see the tricky factor. Looks a little bit sloppy. Could have been a hell of a lot worse. I'm not a machinist. I'm not a I'm not a metal worker. But I nevertheless got this to look reasonably decent with things lined up, hopefully, and still protected, so corners can't get messed up. And all the metal you see here is this exactly. The difference here, you can see it's shaped like a U, it's shaped like a staple, basically, where it goes completely around. It terminates right there. I essentially took one of these and stuck the flat end here underneath a piece of OSB, underneath a sheet of wood of OSB, and then I hammered along this edge right about here. So if the OSB was this wide going down there with this piece under the stack, I started hammering this edge to bend this down. Hammering just bang, bang, bang all the way down so it would be uniform, so it wouldn't appear dented, and basically folded it over. Imagine this was the piece of OSB. Folded it over to make it this U shape here, which of course you need to surround the three sides of any piece of wood in your cabinet that's fully extended like this. That's a true edge. So you can see here that very, very nicely folded over. There's no real noise to it. It doesn't look like a car wreck. Of course, you have to measure the length pretty well. And that pretty much covers it nicely. It's the most attractive. This isn't the most attractive thing in the world, the way the seams line up here. where you have this sort of gap. But again, given this is my first time really working with metal, to this degree, trying to shape it without a proper machine shop or any sort of professional assistance, I would say it's not too damn bad. But your mileage may vary. Once you get up to here, because this is flat and flush without forming a 90-degree angle, I can do the same thing I did with the bottom, where I just left it intact and screwed it in. It has screw holes only on one side. However, if you need to, you can use a small drill bit and drill holes into this and then go ahead and put screws through it if you need it reinforced from both sides. Here's the other side here, where I essentially did the same thing. Of course, the marquee is going to go across here. As I've noticed with most arcade cabs, it seems like the marquee either is the last thing done or it never gets done, which is kind of funny because it seems like that'd be like the most fun part. Not terribly difficult, and it looks awesome, but you'll see that soon enough. The joints here. And that's pretty much all I wanted to show you. I'm going to be putting this in the car tomorrow morning. Got a pretty typical SUV. The rear driver's side seat folds forward. I have exactly 6 feet of clearance, which is the height of this unit, minus the caster wheels under here, which I may need to take off. So we'll see if it'll fit in there on its side. Should be okay. Something else I'm going to do to this, it's actually not fully trimmed right now. I ran out of it. I actually had to take this from a completely different old project. So it's not quite the same tone. You'll see it's actually a little bit lighter than this. This is like a gunmetal finish, where it's sort of like a darkish silver, and this is your typical silver here. They're all steel, so they actually paint or perhaps coat them with some other type of metal to give it this finish. One other thing though, actually, when you're cutting this, these edges here, I actually used basically wire cutters. This guy right here, I can open it. It's locked up on me. Well, in any case, imagine it opens. It does open. Open, you bastard. There we go. Okay, I actually used this, which can put quite a bit of force on something. I've used this to cut chain before, medium to a small chain. You can actually cut the metal with that. You measure it, pinch it where you want it, and then you're actually putting a lot of pressure on it. You start twisting it back and forth like that until it works its way in. Then do that with the other side, and then just basically wiggle the two pieces back and forth until metal fatigue actually ends up breaking it. When you're done with that, it's kind of sharp, of course, because it's metal. You need to use sandpaper or an angle grinder, or something like that, a file perhaps, to sort of smooth down the edges around the corners as you need. Because the last thing you want with a corner like this is to have people cutting themselves or having their clothing snag on it or anything obviously undesirable like that. So you need to kind of smooth all of these edges down. Let's see. I think that's about it, actually, with respect to the trim. There seems to be something else that I wanted to say, but I can't remember what it is. Oh yeah, it was these, actually. I'm not sure what these are called. These are actually very old, so they're somewhat oxidized. I'm probably eventually going to have to paint these or buy new ones, because they look kind of crappy. But anyway, I'm going to end up putting these. Of course, I'm going to have trim going across here as well, and probably down the back there. I'm going to end up putting these like this and screwing those in pretty tight. Because when you're moving something like this, the last thing you want, especially, not even really especially OSB. OSB, in fact, is probably more resilient to resistant to corner damage than something like MDF. But in any case, when you're moving something this big and this heavy, you don't want to bang a corner on something and have it permanently deformed or possibly broken off. So having a piece of steel like this secured on the corners or areas that might impact something is a pretty smart idea if you don't want your machine to look like an original arcade cabinet that's gotten the shit beaten out of it over 20 years. So of course I'll have one down here too. So that's about it. I'll have another update. I just wanted to update y'all real quick before I went to the beach with this thing. And I might have an update from the beach. I don't know. It depends if, my brother, who's just a little bit younger than me, he's going to be there visiting from California. And me and him are like ancient Street Fighter 2 rivals. So we're pretty well matched skill wise. And it'll be interesting to see how that goes, since we're not teenagers anymore. But playing, the game that we were so good at when we were. So we may have a little bit of a live Street Fighter, well, not live, but Street Fighter 2 competition. So we'll see. Anyway, stay tuned. Thanks.